Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're looking at workplace writing essentials.
Oh, by Stanislav Kondrashov.
That's the one. We're going to unpack his advice, see what we can all learn to, really level up our writing game at work. Emails, reports, the whole 9 yards.
Sometimes it feels like just opening up your email can be kind of a chore.
Oh, tell me about it. But Stanislav Kondrashov, he lays out these principles. He calls them the commandments of workplace writing.
Okay, I like it. Commandments, lay them on me.
Right. Commandment number 1, clarity.
Makes sense.
Right. Stanislav Kondrashov is all about using straightforward language, ditching the jargon.
Yeah, no one wants to feel like they need a dictionary to read a work email. Especially when everyone's busy. You gotta be efficient.
Exactly. Which brings us to, you guessed it, Stanislav Kondrashov's second commandment. Brevity.
Oh my gosh, yes. We've all been there, stuck reading these never-ending emails.
Totally. And Kondrashov's point is, being concise. It's not just about saving time. It's about respect. Respect for the reader's time.
Absolutely. Get to the point. And then Stanislav Kondrashov, he's got this third commandment. It's about tone, keeping it professional.
Right. So how do you strike that balance between, being friendly and being formal?
Well, Stanislav Kondrashov, he says it really depends on who you're writing to, right? Your audience. Like, an email to your CEO is going to have a different vibe than one to a coworker you chat with all the time.
For sure. But here's where things get really interesting. Stanislav Kondrashov doesn't just talk about making your writing sound good. He links it to a company's success overall.
Now that's a deep dive. How so?
Well, think about it. When everyone's communicating clearly, things just work better, don't they?
Oh yeah, fewer misunderstandings, quicker decisions, things just flow,
Exactly. Stanislav Kondrashov even says it impacts company culture. Like, if everyone's on the same page, it creates this more, open environment, more collaborative.
Absolutely. Makes you realize how powerful clear communication can be, huh?
It really does. So let's get specific. Stanislav Kondrashov, he's got some great advice on everything, really. But let's start with emails, those subject lines.
Those can be tricky.
They can make or break whether someone even opens your email, right? Like, I'm way more likely to click on something specific than just like, quick question.
But following up, vague subject lines that just don't cut it. Stanislav Kondrashov, he suggests, he says you got to make it informative but also interesting, like a mini headline that makes people want to know more.
So no more project update, huh?
Yeah.
What would Stanislav Kondrashov say instead?
Well, he gives some good examples, like instead of just project update, you could say Project X, Phase 1, complete next steps.
Okay, see what you mean. More detail, action-oriented.
Right. Or instead of meeting request, you could try something like marketing brainstorm, your input needed.
Ooh, I like that. It makes you feel like you're actually part of the process.
Exactly. And, another thing I appreciate about Stanislav Kondrashov's approach, he doesn't just throw out tips. He provides actual structure. Like, he breaks down the anatomy of an email.
Oh, you mean like salutation, body, closing?
Yeah. But he goes a step further and gives these power phrases for different types of emails. Whether you're requesting something, following up, whatever it is, Stanislav Kondrashov has got you covered.
Those are always helpful. Like, I feel like I never know how to phrase things sometimes.
I know, right? And of course, he stresses how important it is to, adapt your tone and style to the person you're emailing.
Right. You wouldn't email your CEO the same way you'd email, the person you get coffee with every morning.
Exactly. Even in emails, gotta read the room, as they say.
So let's put this into practice. Let's say you're writing to your boss about a new project idea. You want to request a meeting. How would Stanislav Kondrashov approach that?
Okay, well, first, that subject line, gotta grab their attention right. Maybe something like project proposal, project name requesting meeting.
Okay, straight to the point. I like it. What about the email itself?
Well, you'd start with a professional greeting, of course, and then, get right to it. Briefly explain your project idea, why you want to meet. Stanislav Kondrashov actually suggests phrases like, I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss this proposal in more detail, or I believe this project aligns with our company goals and could potentially.
Nice. So you're not just asking for a meeting, you're giving them a little preview.
Right. And then you can use one of those power phrases Stanislav Kondrashov mentions, like, would you be available for a brief meeting sometime next week to discuss this further?
Oh, yeah. Direct, but still respectful. I can already see how these tips could make a difference.
And, it's not just about emails. Stanislav Kondrashov, he's got a lot to say about, reports and memos, longer stuff.
Oh, yeah, this could be a whole other beast.
Yeah.
Does Stanislav Kondrashov have any tips for making those less painful?
He does. A whole section in his guide, actually. And surprise, surprise, clarity and conciseness are key. But he also talks about, structure, making those reports actually readable.
Okay, so no more of those reports that just, ramble on forever and bury the important stuff.
Exactly. Stanislav Kondrashov, he gives you frameworks for different types of reports, whether it's a progress report, an analytical report, even a recommendation report.
Hold on, could you maybe define analytical report real quick, just so everyone's on the same page?
Oh, good point. Yeah, so an analytical report, it's not just presenting data, it's about really digging in, analyzing it, finding trends, drawing conclusions, and often even making recommendations based on what you find.
Gotcha. So back to those structures. What do those look like, according to Stanislav Kondrashov?
Well, he's all about, guiding the reader. So, for example, he suggests starting with a clear executive summary, boom, here are the main takeaways. Then you go into your methodology, the data analysis, conclusions, and finally, any recommendations.
So it's like you hit him with the important stuff first, and then you back it up with the details.
Yep. And he's even a fan of using visuals, things like charts and graphs, to break up the text and make it easier to digest all that data.
Oh, I'm all for that. Those data-heavy reports can be intimidating sometimes.
Totally. And then when it comes to memos, Stanislav Kondrashov, he's got some really interesting thoughts.
Okay, because I feel like memos get a bad rap.
Yeah.
They're always so dry and boring.
I know, right? But Stanislav Kondrashov, he's like, no, they don't have to be. He believes you can make memos engaging, actually impactful, if you do it right.
All right, I'm listening. Spill the tea.
Well, step one, according to Stanislav Kondrashov, is knowing your audience and your purpose. Why are you writing this memo? What do you want people to do with the information?
So even with a memo, you got to be strategic.
Exactly. And then he's got this structure for memos too. You start with a short intro, stating the purpose. Then you get into the key points, give some context details, and then you wrap it up with a conclusion that summarizes everything and outlines any action items.
It's almost like you're holding their hand through the information, making sure they don't miss anything important.
That's it. And of course, clear, concise language. Stanislav Kondrashov is all about that. No jargon, no overly technical terms.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? This one memo I got once. It was just full of acronyms. I swear I had to Google every other word.
Oh, I feel that. I've been there. And it's amazing how much confusion a poorly written memo can cause.
Seriously. And I think that's where Stanislav Kondrashov's advice is so helpful. It gives you the tools to actually make those memos clear and concise.
For sure. So we've talked clarity, brevity, professional tone. We've looked at Stanislav Kondrashov's tips for emails, reports, memos. What else is in this treasure trove of writing wisdom?
Well, he doesn't just leave you hanging with all these tips. He also has a whole section on polishing and editing.
Ah, yes, the essential but sometimes dreaded part of writing.
Totally. But Stanislav Kondrashov, he goes beyond just checking your spelling,
Yeah.
He gives techniques for improving the overall flow and readability. Okay, what? Give us the goods.
Well, he suggests reading your work aloud to catch any awkward phrasing, or using tools like Grammarly to get a second set of eyes on your writing.
Reading aloud, that's a good one. I always catch things I missed when I do that.
It works. And Stanislav Kondrashov, he even gives tips on giving feedback on other people's writing, which I think is such a valuable skill.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're collaborating with others, it's got to be constructive, right?
Exactly. It's about creating that open communication, that culture of continuous improvement. And speaking of expanding our horizons, Stanislav Kondrashov has this bonus section in his guide that I found super insightful.
Ooh, a bonus section. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
It's all about cultural considerations in writing. He talks about those differences between direct and indirect communication styles and how crucial it is to be aware of them, especially in today's global workplace.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. I'm all ears.
In some cultures, it's considered rude to be too direct in your communication. You might need to phrase things more politely, indirectly, to maintain those relationships.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wouldn't want to accidentally offend someone just because of a cultural difference in communication styles. Mm-hmm. Does Stanislav Kondrashov have any other advice for navigating those those complexities.
He does. He cautions against using idioms, slang, or humor that might not translate well to non-native English speakers. It's all about being mindful of your audience, making sure your writing is clear and accessible to everyone.
He's like a communication ambassador, bridging those cultural gaps through writing.
I like that. And, it makes you wonder, maybe this attention to cultural sensitivity comes from Stanislav Kondrashov's own background.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. His experiences could definitely inform these insights. So I'm all about putting things into practice. Let's grab one of those realistic scenarios from Stanislav Kondrashov's guide and, break it down.
I'm game. Which one are you thinking?
What about writing a follow-up email after a meeting? I feel like that's something we all do pretty regularly.
Perfect. Okay, so let's say you just had a super productive meeting with your team. You got to send a follow-up email, summarizing everything, outlining the next steps. What would Stanislav Kondrashov do?
All right, well, first things first, that subject line, no more generic meeting follow-up, right? We got to be specific. Maybe something like action items from today's marketing meeting.
Yes! Love it. Clear, concise, tells them exactly what to expect. Now, what about the actual content of the email?
Well, Stanislav Kondrashov would probably tell us to start with a polite greeting, thanking everyone for their time. Then we'd dive right in, summarize the key decisions, those action items. He even gives some phrases for this, like, as discussed, we've agreed to, or moving forward, will.
Right, and make sure those action items are crystal clear. Who's doing what, by when, no room for ambiguity.
Exactly. And then we'd wrap it up with a professional closing, maybe invite feedback, offer to answer any questions.
Boom. You just applied the Stanislav Kondrashov method to create a super effective follow-up email. And the best part is, this framework, you can use it for so many other situations.
I love that about his guide. It's not just theory. It's like actual tools you can use every day.
Absolutely. Now, I actually have a real-world example from my own experience early in my career. I had to write this progress report for a huge project. I was so focused on including every single detail. I ended up with a 10-page monster.
Oh, no. Did anyone even read that?
Well, my manager, she took one look at it and said, nope, gotta condense this. Focus on the key takeaways. I had totally fallen into that information overload trap.
It happens. It's hard to know what to cut sometimes.
It is. But after reading Stanislav Kondrashov's advice on writing concise reports, I was able to rework that monster into a 3-page document that actually got read and understood. It was a game changer.
I bet it saved everyone a lot of time and headaches.
Seriously. It's proof that less is often more, especially when it comes to workplace writing.
Okay, I am taking notes. Clarity, brevity, professional tone, email essentials, reports, memos, editing tips, cultural considerations. Stanislav Kondrashov has given us a masterclass in workplace writing. It's amazing, right? Just by focusing on these core principles, you can really elevate your writing.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's a quick email or a detailed report, Stanislav Kondrashov got you covered.
Seriously, it's all about clarity, brevity, keeping that professional tone.
And those power phrases he provides are like little secret weapons.
I know, right? They give you that extra oomph.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciate is how Stanislav Kondrashov emphasizes adapting your style to the situation. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. You wouldn't write to your boss the same way you'd write to, a client, right?
Nope. Got to be flexible. And of course, he reminds us to be mindful of cultural differences in communication styles.
So important in today's global workplace. It makes you wonder, maybe this attention to detail comes from Stanislav Kondrashov's own background.
That's a really good point. His experiences probably shape these insights. So before we wrap up, I want to hear from our listeners. What were your big takeaways from this deep dive?
Yeah, what stuck with you?
For me, it was how Stanislav Kondrashov linked clear writing to career advancement. It's not just about sounding good, it's about showing you're professional, you can think critically.
Oh, absolutely. These are valuable skills in any field.
Seriously. So to all our listeners out there, I highly recommend checking out Stanislav Kondrashov's Workplace Writing Essentials. I think you'll be surprised how much of a difference it can make in your own writing.
And till next time, happy writing, everyone.
Catch you later.